I come from a very religious family. 15 years ago, when I was younger, my auntie always told me God made every single thing with real purpose in mind. But there was always one question she never had the answers to. And that was when I asked why roaches existed. Growing up with a strict father, there's not a lot of things in life that strike fear in me. Ask me to give a public speech, I'll be done by Thursday. The ocean? Yeah, it's just water. Ghosts? If they are real, they better have boxing gloves in the afterlife because we're scrapping. You put me in a room with a lion, tiger and bear, and I'm walking out of the room with all their skins. I wouldn't even have to hurt them, I'll just stand my ground and they would give me their skins out of respect. Now, if it was a cockroach in the room, their story would have ended differently. I can be having the best day of my life, singing the SpongeBob song and everything as I joyfully stroll down the street, but just one sight of these little rascals and I'll be so afraid and disgusted that it is enough to ruin my mood for not only the entire day, but my entire week. These little creatures do not deserve to have this big of a chokehold on me. The only thing scarier than a cockroach is a cockroach which is now gone after you made eye contact with it. Everybody in my life describes me as a happy person. I see beauty in almost everything. There's not a lot of things that gets me mad. I do not hate anything, is what I could say if these things didn't exist. Can we just take a minute to understand how useless these things really are? Spiders keep pests under control. Bees pollinate flowers when they aren't trying to hook up with women. Even mosquitoes serve as food sources for many of the fish out there. So what do roaches do? These things have been alive since the prehistoric era, the land before time. It survived the meteorite, a catastrophic event, lived 300 million years, only to be as useless as it was back then that it is now. All this time to evolve like everybody else, but somehow it became worse. And I and many others are afraid of these things. But I wasn't always like this. I'm not the man I used to be. There was a time where a roach could be crawling on my face and I wouldn't even blink, let alone flinch. In fact, I would go around hunting these things, as if they were my prey. I was the black swordsman, but instead of killing apostles, I killed these things. I would even put them up on my wall, as trophies, part of my collection. But everything changed that one day. Say what you want about childhood trauma, but it's real and it will carry on to adulthood if the cut is deep enough. That day was just an ordinary day. I was just playing hide and seek with my friends. Everybody was fun besides me. As I was peeking behind the garbage chute, I stepped on a big rock. Then, the rock started to move, and I was like, this must be one weirdest rock for it to be moving like this. And as I lifted my bare feet, I realized to my utter shock and horror that what I was stepping on was indeed not a rock. I was never the same after the event. It changed me, changed who I was, gave me a phobia of roaches and a newfound hatred for them. And I know I'm not the only one. But don't worry, I'm here to make sure we overcome these fears together. I've never been to war, but I have played a lot of Overwatch comp back in my day. So believe me when I say that I know war tactics. Blitzkrieg, Goats Matter, I've done them all. When I call it war, I don't mean it in a joking sense. I'm as serious as I possibly can be. Because when fighting these things, it's all about persistence. It will take months, maybe a year to get rid of them all. As a great man once said, to know your enemy, you must become the enemy. I ate rubbish for a week, I slept where they slept, I spent countless nights studying these things, and I've collated all my research. So this is what I found. There is never just one roach. They come in packs. Do not just spray and pray that there's the last of them. In fact, spraying the same pesticide over and over again will make sure the roaches stop coming because they can smell the toxicants within the area. To solve this, we have to think back to history. How the Greeks gave the Trojans a horse, only for it to be a full-mounted surprise attack. In this case, it's roach bait. These baits contain both toxicants and attractants, so the roaches will keep coming back for more, not realizing that what they think is a gift is actually just their last meal. Roach poops usually look like black little drops. Most of the time it's kind of a signal for them to indicate to others that there are food sources lurking about, so if you ever come across any of these, make sure you hard focus the area. Many years ago, I faced an infestation. I tried everything, baits, sprays, I even tried surrendering by putting a white flag on a donut and then giving it to them, but they didn't budge. It seems even roaches, the lowest of the low, have a slight disliking towards the French. The only thing that worked out was calling an actual bug exterminator. He did his job and he got rid of everything, my problems included. By the way, all the war tactics which I've given works for every kind of roach, except Australian roaches. I heard they're more intelligent and just a bigger nuisance to deal with in general. So pro tip, when you encounter one of these things, just try fleeing the country. So after everything I said, what I'm gonna say next might shock you. But my hatred and fear for these things have subsided. Something happened to me recently, something that made me want to make this video in the first place. Recently, I had to give this speech to a whole stadium of people on why global warming sucks. It isn't anything new to me. I'm used to having the spotlight on me. I wasn't scared. Or at least I thought I wasn't. That day, 2 hours before the speech, I just broke. I had a panic attack for one of the first times in my life. I didn't even know why. I've done this speech countless times, so why now? As I sat down on the floor, overthinking, breathing heavy, gripping my chest, I look over to the right and I see a cockroach sitting there with me. Every encounter I've ever had with a roach, it has always been on sight. Both of us were afraid of one another, so we would just attack. It's all we ever knew. As I sat there blankly staring at it, it didn't scurry and run away. Both of us just kinda existed in this strange silent truce. It's hard to explain, but I could tell this roach was having just as bad a day as me. It was like meeting a stranger at the bar, both of you just pouring your feelings out and sulking, then realizing that it's way better than sulking alone. Soon I realized how crazy I became, that I was finding company with a little cockroach, that I just laughed. I stood up, wished him goodbye, hoping he'd find the same solace in this tiny corner of the world as I did, and I left. I came back after acing my speech to see if he was still there, but he was gone. As mysteriously as he came, he vanished, not knowing how he helped me that day. I was afraid of these things, despised them for most of my life. I ended most of his family bloodline, probably, and yet that one roach, despite everything, showed me kindness in a way. It was literally the one scene in Naruto where he was ranting about how Zabuza keeps giving Haku the cold shoulder, despite Haku being nothing but nice to him. Just like how stepping on the roach in my childhood barefooted changed me, this affected me as well. I still don't love these guys, yet I don't hate them anymore. I made a video declaring war on these roaches, but I had no idea who any of these roaches were. These roaches weren't my enemies. I have no enemies. I do not want to see any comments saying we know it's a roach making this video, just give it up. I'm not defending these things. I'm not saying you should kiss a roach the next time you see it. Kill it, burn it if you have to. But if there's one thing you take away from this video, it's that perspective is the bridge between fear and acceptance. Both of the events that changed my life changed me because it changed the way I see things. I should have never been afraid of roaches just because I didn't understand them. These things were never the demons that I made them up to be. We tower over them. They are afraid of us. Most of the time. They didn't choose to be born this ugly, or smelly, or annoying. But who knows, if they look like butterflies, maybe people wouldn't mind them. The truth is, they got dealt a bad hand. When your perspective shifts and you have an open mind, you start to see that there were a lot of things right in front of you this whole time. I, out of everybody, hate to admit it, but the roaches weren't as useless as I thought they were. They help in recycling, they keep ecosystems clean, and they are an important source of food for lizards, mice, and many other animals. So to come full circle, and finally answer the question that my auntie couldn't 15 years ago, maybe roaches were made for this exact reason, to teach us that when we change how we see, what we see changes. So the next time when you encounter a roach, instead of seeing this utterly horrifying Lovecraftian creature that scares you, maybe you'll see Jonathan, who's the father of 4, trying to make ends meet and trying to find his way in life, just like the rest of us. But if Jonathan grows wings and starts flying, that's when you have every right to throw everything I said out the window and just run. That's about it. I saw some complaints that my outro from the previous video was pretty short, and not gonna lie, I completely agree with that. I always take feedback with a grain of salt and I appreciate it. So I was thinking like this time I was going